complain. I'm in the dungeon of my office, so I'm the only one down here. I think I'm the only one in the building today, which is good. It allows me to focus, get some stuff done. Yeah.
I'm locked in a room so that my 5-year-old can't pop in on us.
And that was the alternative. Either my girls are jumping on me or my son shooting me with a Nerf gun. I think those are the other options.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it maybe 5. What? We're not at 12 yet. We're good. Let's see.
Anybody feel like there's a lot more buyers out this week than there was last week?
It seems that way to us.
Yeah, me too.
We've got kind of a feeling of buyers trying to push us towards getting into properties. You know, it's almost like once you can hurry up and start to be able to show these homes if at all possible. So I think we've got some anxious built up buyer interests out here. Yeah. And where are you at, Dan? And
I have a small office in Albany,
okay.
Berkeley and Oakland.
Gotcha.
Been licensed for about 30 years, running the company for about 20. You know, just sort of a small little company. That's it.
Keep him busy, staying out of trouble, huh?
Danny's being humble. He's a rock star in the East Bay.
Not true. Not true.
Everybody loves Danny.
Very kind. Hey, Jason.
Yes, we got on Facebook Live. This is like 50% chance when I get on Facebook, so we're good. Okay, 3. We have 16 people here. We have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, who are we missing?
Jason, it also looks like you're day trading on your computer screen in the background.
How many screens do you have, Jason?
What's that?
How many screens do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you day trade?
Yeah.
That's all, man. Those are rookie numbers. Come on, we got to get those numbers up.
He's a one-man boiler room.
I know, right? How's everyone doing?
Good.
Being healthy, sane.
So when other people are talking, do I need to mute?
Yeah, it's best to mute if you're not speaking. I think a quick way to do it is clicking it. I think spacebar works, but it's easier to just click. That way you get rid of all the background sounds and stuff.
Cool.
And if you hear any moments of silence, please just fill in. I mean, I've been on a lot of masterminds. I found that like the ones with less knowledgeable people, there's a lot of pauses. I don't see that happening here because you guys are probably the smartest in the business, and we're looking forward to, hearing what you guys have to share today.
Cool.
We're missing 4. I mean, we can just start. I think so. We're waiting. COURTNEY, COHAN is gonna come in. Wilson LEUNG. Where's Greg? And Greg, and that's it. I guess. Greg just came. Hey, what's up, Greg? So on the last couple of these, it felt kind of rushed just because we weren't able to make proper intros. Why don't we start this? We can start now. Jim, give us a quick intro about where you're from, and actually for everyone on your name, let's add the location, the city you work in. That'll help viewers a lot. If you click the 3 dots next to your name, you can add your location.
3 dots next to the name. Gotcha.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because for this panel, we were able to get 4 in San Francisco area, 1 Alameda, 4 East Bay, 1 Northwest Contra Costa, 3 Contra Costa, and 3 in the South Bay. So I think this is a very diverse group with a lot of in-depth knowledge. And most of us either sell a lot of properties or manage a lot of agents or do a lot of loans. Cool. Why don't you take us off? Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for your time. It's an honor to be on this call and see some friendly faces I haven't seen for a while. My name is Jim Black. I've been doing home loans here in California for about 20 years. Been fortunate to help over 6,000 families with home ownership. And every day is a humbling day to try to do better, help more people, and just stay in the fray of opportunity. I manage a team of 16 loan officers. I have my own brokerage company and DBO licensed entity So I've doing loans, and it's been a very wild ride the last 4 weeks. A lot of similarities to 2008 and a lot of differences that I'm excited to share. So thank you very much for having me, and I'm excited to learn more from all you guys.
Daniel, why don't you give us a quick intro on who you are and where you work in and what you manage?
So we have a smaller company here in the East Bay. We have about 35, 37 agents, 5 full-time employees. Been doing it for 30 years, started work with developers back in the early 90s, and then transitioned into a residential resale brokerage. We do commercial as well, and we do some property management. So that's who we are.
Great. Joe, intro.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe FRAZZANO, and I work the Dublin, Danville, San Ramon market. And I started with a builder many years ago. I worked for Coppin & Broad and sold nothing but new homes for probably 8 years. And then I moseyed on over to the resale world about 20 years ago, 8 years with RE/MAX, 9 with Jay Rockcliffe, and recently just joined Compass last August. I run a team of 5, and we're pretty active in the local market. We consistently, sell 150 to maybe 180 homes a year. And so I've been through the different markets. I've worked with Jim Black before. Jim got me set up with some bank-owned properties when he was at B of A. Thank you, Jim, for that. Hopefully you won't need that again.
Yeah, please no. We don't want to do that again.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be with such a great group of other professionals and look forward to the event. Thank you.
Awesome. Eric, you're up.
Erik Schuler with Compass Real Estate, was formerly of Harbor Bay Realty that was merged with Berkshire Hathaway. Been with Compass for about a year now. Run a team of 11 and we're expanding, but everything's been kind of frozen the last month. We do local East Bay. I'm starting to move down to the South Bay a little bit. But again, that's all been halted just because of the situation that's going on right now. That's about it.
Let's see. We have Katie. Why don't you do a quick intro about yourself, your company? And you just moved over. We were associates at Klein Real Estate, but now you are at
A real estate group. So we moved over, my team and I, January 2nd to create a team under the side brokerage. So we call ourselves Bay Real Estate Group. And we have a presence, of course, in San Francisco, which is where I focus my business. We've got an agent in Marin, in Alameda and East Bay, and then a couple of others of us do San Francisco work as well. And I practiced law for about 17 years. Here and in Maryland before moving into real estate about 4 years ago, and couldn't be happier. Never look back. Thanks.
You have a winery or a brand?
Yeah, my husband and I also own a winery, which is here in San Francisco, the production facility, and then the grapes we get from vineyards north, south, and east of here. So thanks for mentioning that. It's called Cellars 33.
Cool, awesome.
And we're delivering.
Brooks, you're up.
Been in the industry for about 9 years. I'm with EXP Realty here in the San Ramon Valley. I bump into Joe quite a bit, but I was with Kenny a little bit with Klein Real Estate, and made the move to EXP in the past 30 days, 45 days, I think. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And you also run Pigtails.
Yes, we actually have a children's hair salon franchise that we put into Danville. It's called Pigtails and Crew Cuts. So bring your little Rugrats around. It's a cool little spot. Having a tough time, obviously, with the current shelter in place, as many business owners are. But that was a way to diversify the income a little bit. So we'll see. We got to keep plugging away.
Cool, awesome. Cameron.
Hey, Cameron Platt, ABIO Properties. I've been in the business 17 years. I am a recovering attorney. Couldn't be happier.
You on the call.
Yeah, no, my business partner, Lynette Edwards, and I formed ABIO 4 years ago. We've both been in the business almost 20 years, and we have 45 agents and 2 offices, one in Oakland, one in Lafayette, fiercely independent, no plans to sell out or franchise it ever.
Awesome. Let's see. Jason, tell us about who you're with and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in the business for about 13 years now, I guess. Wow, time flies. Before that, I worked on the trading floor in San Francisco for 12 years, doing stock execution for market makers. And I've been working, I started with Century 21. I have a small, very, very small compared to all of you guys, a really small office in PINOLE, and manage a small team, and we just focus on residential sales mostly, and yeah, anything else I think of.
It looks like you're a day trader, right? How many screens do you have?
Yeah, I've got quite a few here. I've got about 5 screens. I do some day trading. I just manage my own portfolio and things like that, and so yeah, with this crazy market we're in, it's kind of an opportunity to hopefully cash in on some of the the low market prices. Yeah, for sure.
Is Countrywide a good investment right now?
What's that?
Is Countrywide a good stock to buy?
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it. I don't even. I'm playing with the I'm playing with the travel stocks right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome, Dania. Why don't you give us a quick intro?
Hey, you guys. So I'm Dania. I'm an agent here in Antioch and Brentwood. Been in practice for about 16 years now, 10 years with INTERO, single agent. Primary focus is resale for your typical, investor or family first-time home buyers. And that's about it.
Well, Brett, we'll take it to you in the South Bay.
Yeah. So Brett Jennings with in the South Bay here in Silicon Valley, specifically San Jose, Campbell, Mountain View, and the surrounding areas. Run a model I call a team ridge. It's kind of a hybrid between a team and a brokerage. Had a team at KW in a couple years back, and wanted to scale it up and out and attract more and better agents. So we did partner with Side. I heard somebody else on the call here say they were with Side. So and we currently have 18 agents here in South Bay.
Someone's dog is yapping.
Sorry about that. It's my dogs.
Oh,
I'll mute up now.
Greg, quick intro.
Sure. Greg Boudreau. Hi, everybody. Familiar faces. Jim, Joe. And Brooks, got to ask, Tom Brady going to Tampa. Anyway, I've been started my career back in Boston a long time ago, back in the 80s. I'm an SOB, son of a broker. I've been doing this since then, always. Okay. Residential real estate. Managed Coldwell Banker in Los Altos and the Peninsula, and trying to figure out why I'm on the panel. No, I'm only kidding. Thank Kenny. Kenny and I go back quite a ways, about 2011, I think, 2012, 2011.
And Greg's definitely one of my mentors to this day, because he brings a lot of insight that I just know, way different point of view and different locations. So I pick up a lot of new trains of thought from Greg.
Appreciate that. Same, right back at you.
Cool, thank you. Anthony, you're up.
Hi, everyone. This is Anthony CASSEL with Golden Gate Sotheby's in the East Bay. Sorry, I don't have my video up. I cracked the eye on my laptop, so my video doesn't seem to be working. I started in real estate as an investor for myself and did my first deal when I was 19 years old. And then I moved over into brokerage in 2012 and moved over to Sotheby's in 2013. And I like long walks on the beach. I'm a Taurus. I started day trading a little bit when the shelter in place happened, which actually helped me recover some of the losses in my 401k portfolio. I applied a model that I learned, or not that I learned. I don't even know. I think a lot of it was beginner's luck, but I applied it, a model that I put together when I was on vacation last year in Europe, and it seemed to work a little bit. But check back with me in a month. And I had to actually put it on hold because I'm buying a property in Sonoma. I'm buying some acreage up there, so I had to stop day trading for a little bit until that closes. But thanks for having me, and good to see everybody's looking good and hopefully healthy and happy.
Awesome. Courtney, you're up.
Hey guys, glad to be a part of the panel. I've been doing this since I bought my first house at 22. And that's almost been 10 years now. And I've actually worked with Kenny before. We did a lot of co-listing together. I'm at Compass now. I'm really happy to be there, and definitely more of a listing heavy agent, but I've been seeing a lot of different things going on between both buyers and sellers in the last couple of weeks. It's been really interesting. So I'm excited to hear what everyone has to share.
Awesome. So I'm Kenny, Kenny Truong at eXp Realty. I joined eXp about 10 weeks ago. I have a small but growing team. We had about 5 agents last year at this time. We have 17 agents right now. We're onboarding about 3 more in the next 2 weeks. So we're trying to aim for a model that's similar to Brett, where I have a brokerage and a team. And you know, I'm literally on the internet every day, so I'm probably interacting with a lot of you guys already. But I want to thank you guys for coming, joining us today for this really amazing panel. We have a good wide variety of locations. We have everyone from San Francisco to Alameda to Oakland, Berkeley Market, Pinole to Danville, San Ramon, and Los Altos. So I want to get together. You know, it's been how many weeks in shelter in place has it been? Has it been 4, 3?
It started what, March
16, I think.
Okay, so about
March
a month
15th.
now. Everyone's lost track of time. So just want to see what's going on in your business. So this is kind of open discussion, but we do have a couple of questions that has worked really well in the last couple of masterminds we've done. The 4 questions you guys can kind of jump around on are like, what are you guys doing to adapt in your business? You know, what are you doing to calm buyers or sellers or keep a conversation going? Things about the economy and prices. Why don't we start with someone local? Daniel, you know, what are you and your brokerage and your agents doing to adapt in this market?
Well, prior to the shelter-in-place rules, we couldn't show anything. So we were essentially not essential. And then when the essential business category was lifted, you could now show a property with 2 people from the same household and 1 agent with strict protocols in place. So getting pressed, and I think somebody mentioned it in the chat before the meeting started, that we're seeing buyers pushing us out. So we are showing property. We are still taking buyers out to see homes that are listed. Inventory levels in our market, my primary market being, say, Oakland and Berkeley, 3 weeks ago, there was 158 houses for sale. Yesterday or the day before, it was 179. So it's a slight creep in inventory, but we should be at high 300s, low 400s this time of year. So some sellers are certainly holding things back. I think buyers that are savvy feel they can strike a deal in this dislocation in the market. Some are, some aren't. Some houses are selling multiple offers, 4 days on the market, and lots of aggressive buyers. So there are buyers out there that are still paying what they paid or would have paid before the crisis started. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot more digital work, a lot of this Zoom meetings. We're doing the Zoom virtual tours for brokers, things like that. You know, video is really important now. Try to keep your social media up as best you can. I mean, Kenny's a master at social media. He could have a class on that and give you the top 10 things to do. And if you just followed that, you'd have the best social media program in the market. So that's what we're seeing. If I can take a second to digress and share with you what I'm telling my team, because I think the hardest thing for us running teams or companies is morale. You don't have that interface in the office of bumping into each other, talking about dinner last night, and did you see that house on Pinecrest or whatever. All of that sort of interaction's gone as they're isolated. So keeping morale up, that to me is the biggest challenge for us trying to run teams and businesses. And I think part of that's offering encouragement. So I'll share with you what I have told my group, because I try to distill things down into principles that are easy to understand. So not really long-winded things. I tell them, think of 3 things that are important. And here are the 3 things that I said last week at our meeting. 1, the spring market evaporated because of the shelter in place. Do you really feel that the spring buyers are no longer there? Of course they are, just held back. Come out in the 3rd or 4th quarter, it's going to be a spring market with a third and fourth quarter traffic. So there'll be lots of opportunity with buyers coming. They haven't disappeared. 2, we had a housing crisis before this thing started. It doesn't mean that somebody built 1 million new houses during the crisis. In fact, quite the contrary. So you still have a housing shortage coming out of it. You still have family formation, babies, marriages. People still want to buy. And I don't see some massive supply coming on. So you're going to come out of this in a constrained market. And then 3, interest rates are historically low, and they will be lower once we come out. I believe that everybody understands that real estate spurs the economy, and the government is going to do everything it can to get rates down to get people out and buying. So you'll have buyers with low inventory and low rates. I still think that's going to happen. And that's what I try to tell my team, to keep them encouraged to get through this, because you have to see that light at the end of the tunnel, I think, to be in the business, you know, and you got to be an optimist. If you're in real estate, you're selling appreciation and growth. You've got to be a half full kind of person, not half empty. I'll mute myself because I'm talking too much. So go ahead, guys.
Hey, Wilson, late ad, just give a quick intro and then also tell us, you know, what you're doing to adapt, because you run a pretty large team and property management and transaction coordinating. So I know you have a lot of things, you know, on your plate.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. My name is Wilson. I run a team here in the Peninsula. Been doing real estate sales for 9 years. Currently have a team of 8 agents, also 5 staff. 2 of the staff members run different businesses. One's a TC business and one is a property management business. So currently we are adapting by creating a lot of content, hosting a lot of webinars. We're sharing that. We're ramping up our YouTube page. We're creating specific blog pages and pages on our website so we can do more retargeting. We use Perfect Audience for that. And it's really about engagement of our existing database right now of people. We have 2 of the biggest sources of our business taken out of what we can do, because we are canvassing / door knockers, and we are also big on open houses. Unfortunately, we can't execute on both of those. So what we have been doing is more so making sure that we're in front of the people more frequently for the people that we already know. So that's what we've been doing a lot of. Escrows are still being open, listings are still hitting the market. It's just adapting, setting the right expectations for buyers and sellers.
How about you, Greg? So you manage a Coldwell Banker office in Los Altos. So what are you doing to guide your agents to keep them on pace?
So one of the things we're doing, Kenny, is, you know, probably over communicating with them to keep everything going. We do our office meeting like everybody does, but we do check-ins on Wednesdays and Fridays, as well as the office meeting on Monday. I think some people are starting to get a little Zoom fatigue in this whole thing. It was, you know, it was great in the beginning, but we've even slowed down a little bit. But you know, like any market, and I've been through a few, the S&L, I mean, I started in the 80s, so I've been through a few of these cycles. Here's the thing that what you got to do, and our friend Kenny, Jim Wahlberg said it once to me, and I think it's really good. It's like, we don't create the market. Our job is to understand it and then develop a strategy to capitalize off it. And I'm not saying, you know, capitalize off of misery or anything like that, but as it's, I think, apparent to everybody, people are still buying and selling. People still have life events that change their housing needs. We just have to be creative and adapt to it. And so we're giving them the tools and utilizing, just like we're doing now, virtual guided showings, right? Not just putting up your virtual showing, but doing guided showings, like walking them through the Matterport and your floor plan and such. And it's almost like you're doing a private showing virtually. So things like that. People are still doing sight unseens. We're showing where we can. But you know, the big thing, I was just on an industry webinar before this, and one of the things that they said that I really liked out of that, don't furlough yourself right now. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't check out. Your people need you more than ever, so connect with them. Even if, you know, not necessarily about business, but if it leads to business, great. But, I got one listing we were just talking about in Palo Alto, 22 disclosures out, offers are coming in today. I'm assuming there's going to be at least multiple offers, 5 or so, maybe 10. So people are still buying properties, bidding up. It still can be a crazy market, house dependent. But we're just trying to encourage them and let them know that, your clients are out there. They want to sit, they want to buy, they want to sell. Cater to them as best you can. Adapt and thrive.
Great. How about Anthony? What are you doing right now to adapt to the market?
I think I'm doing a lot of similar things. I'm having calls with my clients. Basically when this first went down, I had a call with all my active clients the first week that there was shelter in place, and especially all my listings, and just had a conversation with them about what's going on, what we can do, what we can't do. And by the end of that conversation, it was left that it's a good idea to check in at the latest once every week as this was moving forward. And I've continued to do that. And my clients, with the exception of one that I can think of, have been very calm through this. Whether it's because we're talking all the time or that's just their personality or a combination of both. They've been pretty calm. And also too, I've just been trying to talk to them about, my historic experiences, their historic experiences with the economy, and the real estate market and how things move, and nobody has a crystal ball. There's a lot of different directions things could go in 2, 3, 4 months from now. However, for the time being, I was telling them about this week, multiple offers on properties that I had out there. I had a really good record-breaking sale that first week, and then I just kept up and said, hey, things are still looking really good. We're getting closer to a point where, contractor may be able to finish the job, or we might be able to go in and start showing it, and then or going in to see the property or whatever. I was just giving them updates all the way through. And then eventually, when we were allowed to actually kind of open up business a little bit more, I've noticed that, at least for the listings that I have on the market, they've been very busy. And I've been I was a little perplexed at why to me, it seemed like all of a sudden a switch went on. And I don't know if, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I noticed a switch went on where a lot of homes just all of a sudden got transparently priced, even though all the listings before that were priced aggressively. Even the week that shelter in place went in, and I took offers the week after shelter in place, where people only saw the property before shelter in place, and there was a little bit of a lull. And I got multiple offers there too. And so I had to wind up calling a bunch of agents and brokers and trying to put that riddle together. Why did we all of a sudden a huge group go to transparent pricing? Because I didn't get it. Because we were in this market coming out of the mortgage crisis, where things, when lending loosened up and everybody started thinking they were putting things on transparently, and they got bid up, and then it just became the norm for multiple reasons, including that. And then all of a sudden to turn that switch off instead of try to transition a little bit slower. I wasn't sure if that was right or wrong, but I made those calls, and then I just decided to try and price somewhere in the middle, not quite as aggressively as I originally was going to, but then not necessarily at where I think the property would go to, and then just stay on. Not that I don't stay on top of my deals. I mean, I'm always staying on top of my deals, but I think this whole new system has made it even more, made it more detailed to where you're on top of all the agents that are showing property all the time, because you're not doing open houses and brokers tours. You're having agents reach out. At least how I'm doing it is I'm having agents reach out to me. I don't have Superbox on my listings. I want to make sure they've seen everything I have virtually. And if they have a qualified buyer that needs to buy the property, they're at that point, once they send me the required documentation and they follow the protocol that we talk about, they're going out and then showing the property. So I just feel like it's almost created the next level of control for us for listing, the listing side. And I actually kind of like it in some ways. Obviously, I do want to go back out and have drinks with everybody here and be able to have a good time. So that's kind of what I've worked through. I haven't had any major hiccups yet, knock on wood. I've had several deals close. I have buyers that are active. I'm in contract on a property for myself up north. I have a person who deals very high level with Goldman Sachs and somebody who deals very high level with JP Morgan, and they just got out of very intense meetings and they weren't allowed to share much with me, but they're moving forward with their purchases. So that seems like at least a good long-term sign to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not panicked. I just wish we could be out seeing each other more. I'm a big people person. And then I agree with everybody. Sorry to go long-winded, but I agree with everybody about really taking a look. Like I put together a business plan when I moved over to Sotheby's in 2013. I put together a 5-year business plan. And that's something I've done with every business or property, either property that I've acquired or business that I built and sold. And I did the same thing when I transitioned over to Sotheby's. And I looked at a few of those things that I never got around to doing for generating different sources of prospective buyers and sellers. And because I got so busy with open houses, I would get a lot of deals just from doing one open house. And I got so busy that I never tried everything out on that list. So now I'm pecking away at some of those things on that list. And I'm also preparing, you know, if we do have more foreclosures at some point, and I'm hedging against all different markets. So they're the things that I'm doing. Sorry to be so long-winded. I'll shut up now.
Let's go to PINOLE. Jason.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, I mean, I'm following what everybody else is saying too. One of the big things for us right now, one of my styles of teaching is we don't really do a lot of, you know, how many transactions can we close? It's how many relationships can we create? So, and I think now more than ever, it's time for us to really dig into our database and really reach out to past clients. I use a company called Client Giant to send out closing gifts and little things here and there. And so, you know, that's a big thing. And I don't have to go out and deliver it, especially now, obviously. Things just kind of little gifts get delivered to clients, and texting and emailing and things like that, and just letting them know that things are okay. And I think most of my clients I think they're doing okay. We did have a couple of people that we closed late last year call and say that they needed to sell because of job loss, which is, you know, it's a little unsettling to think that that's coming up. But you know, it's I think right now it's just basically you know, adapting to that and trying to figure out how to you know, stay focused.
Cool. Hey, Brett, so you have a brokerage and a team. What are you doing to coach your agents and your staff?
Yeah, well, we're doing something not too dissimilar with what he just shared. We're making a couple things. What I know from my past experience, and I started my business in the 2008 crisis. You know, literally, I think I got my license, and then a week later, Bear Stearns collapsed. So having gone through that, at that time, you had to make a decision whether you're going to go work and do REO and serve people 3-day sheriff's notices and then vacate, or you were going to work on the short sale side and help people with loan mods and short sales and help them sell if they couldn't get those things done. I chose to work on the latter and really emphasized to my team to really be contribution focused at this time. So the two things that we needed to do was we got to identify the most motivated in our database or our network and find a way to elegantly have those people raise their hands without seeming pushy. And then for the rest of them, like we totally shifted our messaging. So to help like identify those people who are raising their hand, we set up a text template and shared it with the group. And it was simply, hey, you know, I noticed you've been looking at properties, and this is for anybody who'd been looking at properties in the last 90 days. in the text template. And just wanted to offer, if you'd like to check out a property on a live stream showing, we'd be happy to facilitate that for you. Of course, we'll practice social distancing and COVID guidelines as we go out on your behalf. We sent that out to 200 of our Hot Nurture Watch leads in our database just at the first pass. We had 38 responses and a good number of virtual showing requests. And then, so once I could identify like who in our base was still interested at some level of engaging, we could focus those conversations there. And for the rest of them, we started sharing some scripting. I call it the 4 C's. We took some stuff from Tom Ferry, but it's really just connecting and caring. So reaching out to our sphere, and I call it the 4 C's. It was like connect, meet people literally where they're at, because at least in the first couple of weeks of this, emotions were high. You know, people were feeling all kinds of weird stuff, and it seems now that's settled down a bit. But really connect and meet people where they're at. Care, sincerely ask them, like, how are you doing? Like, how are you holding up in this time? Third was contribute. You know, is there anything you or your family need? We ended up partnering with a local nonprofit down here in the South Bay that provides groceries for people who are at risk. And at risk in this time means simply people who can't get out or shouldn't get out during shelter in place, or people, you know, who've recently had hard times, have been furloughed or laid off. So we are calling everyone in the database with, hey, how are you doing? Do you need any help? You know, in any of these capacities, because we partnered with this nonprofit to provide free groceries. And if you don't, then is there anybody in your world that does? And then a really soft transition out of that conversation into, you know, there's some confusion and misinformation floating around about, you know, what this might mean to the real estate market. Do you have any questions or concerns? To bring it back around to real estate. And if those people, if they have any thoughts about it, then we've been going through and doing like one-off Zoom meetings with them for 15 minutes, and we'll unpack what's happening with the market. I had to do this for another webinar that I was on yesterday, but I'll share with you kind of real quick, Kenny, if I could do a screen share.
Sure, let me see. 4
slides, because for anybody here in the Bay Area, this is kind of relevant. Let's see. Yeah. So this is the messaging, kind of what we're saying to restore, you know, confidence to our clients. And we really dug into the data here. And, you know, our messaging is crisis or crash. Bay Area real estate's the safest place to be. This is looking at a 40-year chart of Bay Area real estate that we use in our buyer and seller consultations. But what we did is we compared this to the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ after 9/11, right? After 9/11, the NASDAQ dropped 73%. Bay Area real estate only drops 10%. And then after the 2008 recession, you know, things dropped 53%, but Bay Area real estate only dropped 27%. So the messaging that we're putting out is really that real estate's way more durable than the stock market, even through the worst of times, to give confidence to our buyers. So that's kind of the messaging that we've been putting out, and really trying to help our people like stay engaged. As somebody else said here, don't furlough yourself. But I found, like, from a leadership perspective, what we really had to do was provide a clear path or you know, an action plan for our people to who to call and what to say. And that's kind of been our plan, and it's been very successful. For every 100 contacts, people are pulling up a couple pieces of business that will be ready when we come out of shelter in place. So, yeah.
Real quick, the run. So just, I mean, you've been doing this business for a long time. You've been through one cycle. Not for you to brag, but how many escrows did you guys close in the last 45 days, and how many new escrows?
Yeah, good question. So in March, March was our best month ever. We had because we onboarded a few agents, we had about 16 agents in production, and we closed about 50 million, 40 deals. And yeah, so we were cranking along. That's been cut down. I mean, we've got like 5 into escrow this past week. So we're forecasting and we're seeing about a 50% cut. I did run the numbers for this as well. For this other thing I was on yesterday, I looked at month over month new listings in Santa Clara County, and new listings are down 59%. And then to look at new pendings to see what the buyer activity was, the number of new pendings was also down 59%. So a perfect parity in the drop of demand and the drop of supply. But the messaging we're putting out to our group is like, hey guys, there's like less than half as many paychecks are floating around right now. So we have to really get proactive, because if you just do what you've been doing, you're going to take a 50% cut. And that's why we wanted to get clear on an action plan of how they could be more proactive and more engaged in reaching out to those people in our base.
Awesome. Courtney, why don't you tell us what you're doing in San Francisco? So you're solo agent, right? Or assistant?
Yeah, I have an assistant and a showing agent right now. And so that's been really helpful during this shelter in place. I would say, the first couple of weeks, I think there was a holding period of just like trying to calm down my active clients. So talking with sellers that I have and buyers that I have. And so really coaching my sellers through, what we're seeing. And, it seems like some of the numbers, it's a little too soon to say if there is going to be more of a slowdown before things get better. And so, I think for the most part, they're all pretty calm. I think I have just like one client that's a little kind of panicky, but so far I'm really lucky. The listings that I've brought on, we've gone into contract. I had something go into contract right before the shelter in place, like a day before, and we ended up getting multiple offers and sold over list, and we're closing tomorrow. So that's really positive. And I have buyers in contract that, just kind of coaching them through things to stay positive that, some of them are getting good buys. I wouldn't say they're getting like deals, but they're pretty happy and they're staying in contract. So everything for the most part for me is sticking. And that's kind of what I've been hearing from my colleagues at Compass in San Francisco as well. And, in the interim for listings that I have active, for a lot of them, we actually decided to just pause. And there's something you can do in San Francisco where you can put your listing on hold. So if you had it as an active, you can put it as a hold, and then this way it doesn't accrue more days on market. So for the listings that I had that were active, that's what we did to kind of just see what was gonna pan out over the next couple of weeks. And so this week we decided to actually come back on as active. And so I have a few listings that, if they weren't active and we were planning to come on already and they're ready to go and they're vacant, we're bringing them on the market now. And so far I've been getting calls more than I'd expected for those listings. I think I'm also following a rule of thumb where I'm not really doing transparent pricing. What I've been seeing is the properties that are doing transparent pricing don't seem to be doing quite as well as those that are still doing somewhat of an underprice, but not too significant of one. So just kind of somewhere in the middle seems to be working well so far. And, in terms of like my showing agent, just, trying to coach them through this and keep them really positive and trying to send them whatever I can in terms of work that they can do so that they feel like they still have somewhat of an income coming in. And so, just trying to stay engaged with all of my clients. I've gone through all the ones that are really active, and now I'm running through the ones that are a little more lukewarm that, I think we're really going to be hot spring buyers, but right now they're probably taking a little more of a backseat and really trying to focus more on like health and safety and how people are doing, engaging with them. I think people are pretty lonely. So it's like a really ideal time to be able to call people, like people actually want to talk, which is nice. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to continue to do. Personally, I did take a little of my own mental time just the last few weeks as well, because it's a very different spring where I think it's such a big push normally. It was kind of nice to take time to work on like my CRM and do a lot of different trainings that I haven't had time to do in a really long time. But now I think is the time to really start getting back out there and pushing listings and re-engaging with my buyers now that I think things are a little more clear as to where things might be going.
Katie, so you're also in the San Francisco market. I mean, what are some things you're doing right now to adapt?
Well, I work mostly with buyers. And I think in the beginning, I was really conscious of the messaging and what I wanted to say to them when I was reaching out. And I've always been of the mindset that you need to know your audience. So, you know, the same message might not have been effective for all of the buyers that I'm working with. So when I got past that, I started to try to find new ways to have meaningful things to say to them. I used to be able to gather data, you know, by running around and looking at open houses and, you know, the same old, and everything changed. So I had to change what I had to give them that maybe somebody else didn't have, so that they could look to me for, you know, as a resource in a way that maybe somebody else wouldn't be able to provide for them. So I spent a lot of time on educating myself about the economics of all of this, understanding how to talk with someone about that piece of it, learning how to predict the future, which has been really hard to do. But everybody asks, you know, what's it going to be like? And I want to at least have a way to explain why I have the opinion that I have, and back that up, like Brett was saying, with some of the data, which is really the best we can do, you know, from prior blips in the market. Nothing like this, of course, but it's the best we can do. The other thing I'm talking with my buyers about is getting fully underwritten. You know, I want to be in a position when we're ready to make offers that we're well positioned, you know, beyond what other people maybe would be, using this time to work with the lender. Maybe Jim can talk about that as well, but just being better positioned when people are ready to kind of come out of this. We've made a couple of offers during this time period, and they've been very weird and different than, you know, before shelter in place. But I just want my clients to feel like they have a little bit of control over their own path, and feel strong about making a move when they're ready to do that. So I've been also spending a lot of time just calling lenders, making sure I understand who my go-to people, you know, what they're doing and what they need from me and my clients. And I also spend a lot of time talking to agents who have listings, and understanding why they're pricing things the way they're pricing. It was interesting to hear what Courtney said. I think my experience and what I've seen, both off market, you know, and the things on the MLS, is that it is a bit more transparent, which is helpful. But you know, I'd like to understand what's going on, and I've just been cold calling agents and picking their brains. So it's been a big learning experience for me, which I think is great. So thanks.
Awesome. Why don't we take it to Jim to talk about financing? Is it harder to get financing right now? And I know certain banks are requiring more down or higher credit scores. Is that true in the wholesale market?
Yeah, so just to be clear, there are two real markets that we should be thinking about as realtors and as buyers and sellers. You have the big bank portfolio mindset or marketplace, which is basically jumbo, super jumbo, or unique guideline type of portfolio loans. And then you have the conventional realm, which is really better served in the wholesale channel or mortgage brokerage channel, which I'm part of. Last time we went through this, I was on the bank side. I'm very happy that I'm on the side I'm on today, because what we're finding is banks are pricing to capacity, which means they are not wanting to take on any more loans. They are in a situation where forbearance is a major threat to business. So if you're a bank, if it's Bank of Kenny, let's call it Fast Bank, and you have a portfolio of loans, you're really focused on making sure that you don't have a lot of issues on those loans. So you're going to see banks ratchet up their guideline requirements. JP Morgan just announced Friday they're going to have a 740 minimum score for most of their loans. Wells Fargo also has a guideline around refinances where you have to have $250,000 of liquidity with the bank to be able to refinance a jumbo loan. So you're seeing banks take different stances and where they want to be for the long run. The forbearance thing is the unknown part really that we have to be concerned about for the long term of our industry, because if forbearance goes on long enough, banks are going to start suffering. Their servicing portfolios getting really, really stressed, and there's going to be a lot of need for money to backfill that lack of payment that borrowers can make. And as we all know, if someone did a VA loan with no money down or an FHA loan, if they don't have to make payments for 6 months and the value goes down, is someone really motivated to catch up with all those payments that they owe? Are they really excited to go back and make it right? Chances are good that those loans are probably going to become issue or default loans, or maybe short sales or deed in lieu of foreclosure loans down the road. So we're seeing the government try to backfill and support those different programs. I would say right now that we see jumbo rates anywhere from like 3 3/4 to 4.5%. It's been changing a lot on a daily basis. Some lenders won't even let us lock loans currently, which is also kind of wild until you have clear to close. And the other element to be aware of really is where I would position my business if I was a great agent like you guys all are. I would try to stay in those marketplaces that I know has the most available loan product that's out there. For example, I know Joe and I worked a lot in Danville. In 2010, there was a time frame where houses would not move over like a 915 purchase price. Everything below that was moving very fluidly. It was because the loan sizes allowed for people to put down less money and be able to still be in the conventional realm. So there are different price points in each market that we're in, obviously, right? I know that Brett's price point is probably higher than maybe a price point out in Brentwood or Oakley or whatever, but be aware of where your price points are and educate your sellers as much as your buyers to let them know that, hey, if we go on too high, these are the market buyers we're going to attract and maybe not be able to attract because of our price points. Same thing with buy side. Every 1% decrease or increase in loan rate is about 11 to 12% difference in buying power. That's really important to talk about right now. I got 7 new purchases in the last 9 days. And in those transactions, there have been some that have seller credit for buy down options for the buyer, right? We're trying to get creative to make sure that it is turning into a buyer's market in some areas. And also we want to create as much flexibility and opportunity as we can to have it be one less stress people worrying about. So that whole seller credit thing is a very good approach right now, because in the last 6 months, our comps on values are still higher than maybe some of the distressed sales that may be happening in the next 60 to 90 days. So it's a fantastic time to go out and try to get those seller credits on transactions. Give buyers more tools to keep them more informed, empowered, to make sure that they know they're making a very good long-term decision. And my last point I'll make is really around my own experience. I bought my first house and closed in November of 2001. I was 22 years old. I had no idea that the values had gone down 35% because Zillow didn't exist. You couldn't research it online at the time. I had no idea. All I knew is that my goal was to buy a house for my dream at that time, and was able to. So I had no idea. And looking back at it, I think people in my same situation, or like, I think, who was it that mentioned it earlier? I think it was Daniel mentioned it earlier, around the life events that happen. There's going to be life events that create activities for us. There's going to be buy and sell activities because people have life events. So keep that in mind. We are going into a buyer's market. I don't think it means it's necessarily a negative thing. It just means that it's a great opportunity for buyers. And as long as we take a positive, constructive approach to that, shift our business around, we're going to be fine. I'm seeing a lot of buyers come off the fence this week versus the last 2 weeks, because they've seen their investment accounts kind of maybe normalize or kind of get more stable. So they kind of have a range now as what they know what's going on. People are getting more comfortable about it all. Furloughs are definitely a thing to be concerned about, because from a lending perspective, we can't do a loan on someone who's furloughed, or we take a reduction. So just keep those things in mind. And again, I could talk a lot about this stuff. I have a few slides that I'll share. If you guys want them, I'll put my email address on the link. Some great slides around 3 categories to understand about forbearance, loan modifications, and also basically interest deferment. There are 3 buckets and categories that each bank should offer you, or your clients, I should say. And we don't know the effects on credit yet with the forbearance. We don't know how they're going to code that in their system. just like last time in the last crash, every bank coded their short sale and foreclosure differently. Some were more severe, some were less severe. And I just want to make sure that we're not affecting borrowers for the next 7 years over this hopeful short-term blip in the whole economy. So that's where I am.
Cool. Thanks for all the info. Joe, why don't you tell us what's going on in your market? And for you guys that don't know Joe, he has a team of 5 doing over $200 million a year on average for the last decade. So definitely a lot of insight coming up.
Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, we started off, we were going into March just with a lot of momentum, typically the best time of year for us. I was really looking forward to that. And we had about 12 escrows, and we lost about 5 of those 12 at the time, so it was really disappointing. Some of these are homes that were pretty far along in the process, and buyers were willing to just risk everything, and they didn't want the house anymore. A few weeks ago, we took everything off the market, but about 10 days ago, we put all of our vacant homes. We have 7 vacant listings right now that are on the market, and we're getting a lot of activity. Like, I agree with what everyone has said. You know, the market is, with buyers, has been picking up. I just ran some stats. So interestingly enough, in Danville, there have been 7 pending sales since the 1st of April, and we have 96 active listings. So that's like a 7-month supply just in Danville. San Ramon and Dublin both had 9 pending sales since April. San Ramon has about 70 homes active on the market, and Dublin has 51. So right now, Dublin only has 3 months supply of inventory, which is pretty good. I've been using my time really keeping in contact with past clients and not asking about real estate at all, just more what I like what Brett is doing. Your 4 C's really rings for me, because, you know, it's really about caring about people. I think we're all going to be fine through this process, and I do believe that the market will pick up rather quickly once something comes about, like a treatment for the COVID-19. So I do feel like I do want to position myself to be there when people are ready. I don't want to be forgotten. So I'm definitely keeping in contact with clients and encouraging that for all of our team members as well. So, you know, just hanging in there and cleaning up the database, like I mentioned, and cleaning up marketing messaging. And in 2008, I doubled up my marketing efforts, and I got a lot of marketing. I got a lot more out of my marketing, like a lot more market share. So I would highly recommend, like, don't stop. If you were, whatever you were doing before this all happened, like, don't stop. Like, just continue on with, if you're doing mailings, or I think Owen, somebody had mentioned like more video marketing and stuff like that. I think that's all really important to do. And I just love how everything is becoming hyper local. So we're helping our local restaurants and businesses get through the crisis, you know, providing gift cards to clients. We have some agents that are providing meals with local restaurants to people. So I just love what's happening right now. People are really coming out and, you know, showing their care. I really love that part about what's happening.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Why don't we go over to Brooks? You guys are in overlapping or adjacent markets.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot for me is, I mean, similar to what everybody's really been saying. I've kind of taken the approach of every week I do my Thursday update calls, good news, no news, or bad news type of thing. But I feel like with the current state that we're in, half the time I'm not sure what day of the week it is, so I'm over calling them, and I feel like I may be talking with them a little too much. But I'm in kind of a unique situation where I'm a one-man team. I'm kind of heavy on the admin side of my team, if you will. But as far as transactions, I would say I'm probably 80-20 listings to 20% buyers right now. And I have a unique situation where right when we're, you know, ready to go big into March, which what Joe was saying as well, March, April, May, really big times for for my business historically, but going into March, we had a little over about 5 or 6 different properties that the homeowners were either vacating the home with the intention of purchasing something else, where they've taken temporary housing. I've got a couple clients that are actually living with family members where they're moving out for us to stage and prep, get the property ready. And then the shelter in place hit. And so we've got some clients that are kind of double paying, whether it be their rent, their mortgage, they're pulling their hair out living with parents or in-laws right now and wondering, when can we list the property? When can we get this back on the market? So we've got kind of a unique situation where it goes back to kind of caring for the clients and just kind of revisiting the wants and the needs and the reason for starting the process in February with a plan to hit in March. Personally, I'm taking advantage kind of this time and getting back into ways that I've had a lot of success just marketing my brand through video and different ways through social media. So I've really tried to get back into, trying the list of marketing ideas that I've always said I was going to get to, but I haven't had any time to. So we've really kind of been checking off a lot of those to-do lists. So it's a unique time. I think a lot of it's just kind of taking the temperature of my clients and just letting them know I'm here. I've got a client that's got a property full of furniture, older couple that had just downsized. So we're in the process of literally just trying to set up times for people to come and pick off and purchase their furniture out of their home. Whatever we can do to help. I'm trying to stay busy, trying to bring as much value to them as possible. So a lot of what everybody's been saying, I think it's all kind of one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dania, over in Brentwood, you're kind of over that side too. Do you want to share what you're doing as a solo agent?
Sure. So when everything happened, it was like a monkey wrench was thrown at us, towards everybody. So it was a point in time where I as a just individual, kind of got intimidated by what's going on, the unknown, the uncertainty. So I had to kind of, check myself and just, calm myself, because I knew that once I get on the phones with my clients, I'm going to be that voice of reflection, right? So, in the initial, when everything happened, I just, took a pause and then got all the facts straight, did a lot of training, talked to other fellow agents. I'm with Tom Ferry, so I did a lot of his training and programs, just staying in touch with the Steve Harney. I don't know if you guys know him. He's like the guru, the oracle of the housing market and the economy and things like that. So with all that being said, I had to just pause, kind of reflect on my business, and in the situation like this, instead of being, pessimist, being an optimist. So with that, I saw opportunity. So the very first thing I did was pick up the phone, call my, my database, my clients, just to check in, see how they're doing. And, a lot of people, it was nice. My phone calls were, I guess they weren't only, hey, how you doing? I'll talk to you later. It was at least 10 minutes per client, just really hearing them out, making that connection with them, because people, they're looking for that right now. So that was nice. And I gotta tell you, about half of my database of people I talked to, whether they were agents or people in the business or past clients or whatever, half of them were doing all right, had a positive mindset that we're going to get through, well, this too shall pass. And then I had another half that were really freaked out, what's going to happen. They've been impacted financially or mentally. So again, I was just trying to be the voice of reason and the calm for their situation. So, with all that being said, that was my first move. And then after that, my second move was to look at my business, see how am I doing my marketing, because our business has to move forward. You know what I mean? So I had to keep that momentum going. So I changed the whole tonality, the dialogue of my scripts, of my postcards. I'm really heavy on prospecting. So that whole dialogue changed. And also I'm a phone prospector. I hit the phones daily. That's how I get most of my leads, through that and referrals. So that whole dialogue changed. I mean, for, the first concern or questions these clients or these folks in my farm, just even calling them, you know, how you doing? How is everything? Bringing humanity, bringing empathy and concern into the conversation. Just making that touch and that we're here. And if you need anything, you know, we're just here as a resource, whatever. So, and then naturally that conversation would go to, you know, how's the real estate market? What do you think? And again, I'm just being the calm and reason to it. You know what I mean? And letting them know that I can't give you my opinion. I could just give you the facts, and this is what's going on. In all reality, like when I read what's going on here in Antioch and Brentwood, where I primarily do most of my business, I don't see any staggering numbers where it's alarming to me, where I think we're going to have some kind of like crazy, you know, price depreciations or anything like that. I mean, we're still moving inventory, and there's never been a point in history where homes have either, you know, buyers have stopped buying or sellers have to stop selling. Inventory moves. So there's always going to be people out there who need to buy or sell a home. And it really comes down to what's their motivation. And so what I've been doing just to, you know, keep my pipeline going and nurturing is, you know, kind of filtering out who is ready to do, you know, move and who's ready to buy. And folks who are saying, look, you know, my job, I have a guy who's a pilot with American Airlines, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. So, and he was ready to sell, and now everything's on pause. And then I have folks who got into a contract before the shelter in place who need to go ahead and buy now or and sell. So it's case by case. And then folks who have that small interest to list or buy, you know, I put them in a separate pipeline. I'm just nurturing them, checking them, you know, checking on them. You know, do phone calls, Zoom meetings with them, strategy sessions, like, hey, while we're waiting, maybe you could do this with the property. Maybe we'll do this. And on my end, I'll market the home as a coming soon, or whatever I need to do. But I mean, with all that being said, I mean, in times like things like this, I think the primary focus is just to bring humanity back into the business. No hard closings, not about, oh my God, I've gotten this many listing appointments, buyer appointments, just bringing humanity back and being the voice of reason and the calm. That's about it.
Awesome. This went longer than expected. So over to you, Eric, and then Cameron. Eric.
So basically what my team is doing is we're trying to educate our clients. Obviously, it's a different case-by-case scenario on every client that we have. Basically, the information on shelter in place has adjusted and changed in the very beginning. We had about 6 or 7 deals that did close because they were in escrow prior to the shelter, as opposed to some buyers did back out, where we were towards the end of the transaction and they lost their jobs or furloughed, and we had to back out. So trying to explain to our clients the reason why, and now it's more available because we were given information ahead of time. So we took the very conservative approach. We took houses off the market just to see kind of what was going to react, like the market, the stock market, and all that stuff being sick. We actually are trying to educate our clients in the fact that give them all their options and let them make the decision. We think it's better to wait and see what happens, wait a couple weeks and kind of react versus them trying to sell. There are a lot of bargain hunters out there right now. The buyers that are coming in all cash, well under market value. And I'm going to my clients and saying, relax, just assess the situation. Give us 3 or 4 weeks, because would you make $50,000 over 3 or 4 weeks? Because that's basically what I think the value of your house is, even in this current market. Fair is kind of maintaining its value. However, you know, it's their decision, but we want to give them the most accurate information before they make that decision. So again, it's a lot of hand-holding for some clients. Other clients get it. Some clients are overwhelmed, but it's our job as agents to give them all the facts and then have them make their decision on that.
Awesome, Cameron. So why don't you take us through what you guys are doing to adapt, what you're doing to adapt in your business, what you're training ABIO agents to adapt, and then maybe lead us into where you think the economy and prices is going.
Yeah, thank you. So we're a very culture heavy brokerage. So we are doing with, and I run a team as well as herd 45 cats at a time. So our message has really been, do what you know that works and do more of it. So with our agents, we're making sure that they have up to the minute information, clear guidance on what is allowed, what is not allowed. We're giving them the tools that they need to communicate with their clients better and more often, more efficiently, like using like Closio for stuff that's in transactions. We really like that also for listing prep. Our blog writer is being paid overtime right now to make sure that we have well-crafted communication that go out to our clients, stuff like that. With our clients, over communication is the name of the game. And like Danny said, the market isn't going away. It's not like someone built 1 million units. We really are going to see a return to normalcy, hopefully soon, but we don't know when. So let's just do everything that we can to be prepared for when the market snaps back. And given that, we still have a housing shortage. We still have, I think we're seeing some turbulence in the market in pricing right now, which is to be expected. But it's not like everybody just lost, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of their properties. If you don't need to sell right now, to my clients, if you don't need to sell right now, let's not sell right now. Let's wait until there's a little more confidence in the market and things have settled down. And ultimately, I think we're going to see a lot of up and down this year, and then hopefully a return to normalcy in 2021. But it's anybody's guess so far.
Cool. Why don't we take it to Daniel, one of my favorite local economists.
You think I'm a local economist, okay? So this is the key here is going to be getting the vaccine out and finding a way to make the society safe, because we are, I think, social animals, and a lot of people are missing on that interaction. We've talked about that before. I think that once you get past this, the economy begins to recover. It begins to open up again. This isn't a financially caused crisis. It isn't like 2008 where you had over-leveraged banks, 30-to-1 debt to leverage, equity to leverage ratios on mortgages and commercial mortgage-backed and mortgage-backed securities that were so fragile. This is a pandemic. It will pass, and then people will get back to work, and everything continues. As people have said, households get formed, people have kids, they get married, they need to buy houses, they invest money, they move forward. I feel really badly for the restaurant and service industry. I think some of these people are going to get really hurt, and some of these restaurants, I understand, need 80% capacity to break even, make a profit. And the state is talking about reducing capacity by creating additional space between tables. I don't know that that makes restaurants viable. So some of this on some of the industries is going to be very hard. I think, if we get a vaccine, we get back to work, I think 2021 will be a good year. I think interest rates for a long time. I think people will definitely continue to buy real estate because of low interest rates and locking in 30-year rates at 3%. I think unemployment is the thing to watch, how fast people go back to work. Unemployment is always a canary that leads to a recession. It's obviously here. We have super high unemployment right now. The government has stepped in with incredible economic stimulus. There's trillions of dollars flooding the economy. That's all going to help keep it afloat and keep everybody hopefully together. People talk about the debt and how we're going to handle paying for all this. And I'll just share with you an idea that I think should occur is a COVID bond. It's a $5 trillion 50-year bond at 2.5% tax-free, pays like a muni. It'll be a 4 or 5% tax equivalent yield. I think you'll get sovereign governments to buy it, and a lot of people that would do it to support the country, like war bonds. And that's how I think you finance some of this economic stimulus that the government's putting forward. So that's my general take on it. Love to hear what everybody else thinks on that.
How about you, Greg, in the South Bay? Where do you guys see the economy going and prices? I think out of this group, your market has the highest average sales price too, so it'll be interesting to hear.
I think we do too, but remember, we're all selling about the same square footage, right? It just dirt's more expensive down here, just because of the sheer demand. I'm gonna have to disagree with Jim for a second. Sorry. I don't think we're going into a buyer's market. Not even close. I think it's supply and demand. It always has been supply and demand. You take the height of the market, yes, the artificial market that we had, where we're selling 600,000 homes in California, and we're barely cracking 400, now, and our average is more around that 350. There's just not, and I think we've said it, everybody said it, there's just not enough inventory. It does come down to a basic supply and demand. And yes, there's a lot of people who have been laid off and furloughed, and our unemployment's going to be, and it's going to be for a while. But we don't need, and I'm not saying anything bad about anybody here, but we don't need that many people to buy the inventory that we have. So we're going to see houses still being bid up, folks. Sure, some markets and micro markets in the Central Valley, again, no disrespect, might get hit harder than the Bay Area where most of us are working, but it's going to be there, and the market is still going to be there because people buy and sell in any economy, and they all have their own personal economy. And just like many of you probably made tremendous strides in your market during the REO and short sale crisis, right, that we had. I think there's going to be winners and losers in all of this. I think the whole thing about the restaurant business, I think we can all say, this was brought up by one of my staff members, we were going to have a bake-off, right? We're doing Zoom fun things and doing happy hours and cake and champagne celebrations each week like we normally do. But I was saying, let's have a bake-off, and they were saying, can we just buy cakes from like we used to? I'm done with home cooking, right? In this whole shelter in place. And I think that's she brought up a great point, and Daniel, you brought up a great point about the restaurant business. I think when we get out, whether we go to our local restaurateurs and restaurant businesses and nail salons and hairstylists, look at my hair, it's getting longer than it's ever been. I think we need to do that and go out, and whether it's a pick up the mail directly, curbside service, like some of us are still doing right now, or go to the restaurant and support those people locally. And Joe said it about the gift cards and everything, and he did it. I saw one of his posts where he bought a bunch of gift cards from the local things, so kudos to you. We need that. We need to remind people to stimulate that economy. I know people in the salon business and nail salon business, and they're hurting right now. I Venmo'd my hairstylist. I paid for 2 haircuts in advance, right? I'm gonna need one when we're ready. But it's like, we got to help them out. And so giving back, our economy, I don't think it's going to be the V, right? I don't think we're going to get a V curve. Newsom said it the other night, when we get back to this, it's not going to be a light switch. It's going to be more like a dimmer. And I think he's probably right. It's going to take a little time, but we haven't, I don't think we've gone, yes, units are down, so we've gone that side. I think we're going to be okay. I think we'll come out of it. I don't know if we were going to have as many units this year as we did last year anyway, right? Just the way things were going. Prices were going up. That might slow a little bit, but I think we'll be all right. I'm an eternal optimist, but that's just me. That's just the way I'm wired. But we're not in the same boat as we were. Daniel put it very well. This is it's not a financial crisis. This is a pandemic that we've never witnessed. I mean, I wasn't around in 1918. So we'll get through this together. And as long as we all stay positive and work and be safe and do our part in flattening the curve, I think we're all going to come out of this fine.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Greg. Anthony, just what are your thoughts on the economy and pricing before we take it over to Jim?
Thanks, Kenny. I'll go really quick because Danny and Greg covered quite a few things I was going to say. I will say that one of the things that I did as soon as this happened is, and I mentioned one of these people briefly in the beginning, I got on the phone with a client who is now a good friend, who is basically one of the main key guys at Goldman Sachs. And then I also got on the phone with one of the key people that run the UC Berkeley money, like that $300 billion or $250 billion fund. I got on the phone with him right when this happened. And then I got on the phone with a couple other financial advisors that I work with. And since then, what I've seen evolve is that it really does seem like, putting all politics aside, that they are going to just take on more and more national debt to support businesses to hire back people. It's a little messy right now on certain levels, but that's based off my end of last week's call with these key people. And none of us have a crystal ball on when the vaccine's going to come out. But it sounds, doing projections, looking at history, talking with these people, it does really seem like that we're just going to have to take on a lot more national debt. Interest rates are going to remain very low for a long time, as Danny mentioned. And there are people that are going to get hurt, but it does seem like the people that are going to get hurt, and I hate to say this because I support a lot of these people. I do like some microloans, but that's a whole nother conversation. Are the service industry people, and but the projection is the people that are actually buying the homes that most of us sell here, they're not long term. A lot of them are going to not be hurt as much. It's really going to be more of the paycheck people that just don't get enough support. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of good signs that I'm seeing behind the scenes that the market, we're not going to have a crash on real estate like 2008, but hopefully that's all true.
Also, anyone else have thoughts about the economy or where prices will trend? And then we'll wrap it up.
I just want to say that, we can't let fear get into our head, right? So we've had a really strong economy and a really strong real estate market, and it's been a slow climb. And so that's what we want. We don't want to boom and bust, and so I don't think we're going to see prices drop drastically or anything like that. I think this is just a temporary thing, and we're going to get through it. And I think everybody's excited and they want to get back to work. I want to get back in restaurants. I want to drink. So
I do have a question for Jim. Jim, what is the price range that you think is least affected by financing right now?
It's anything that has Fannie and Freddie Mac loans supporting them. So those limits are 765 on loan size. So if I was to take 765 and divide that by 0.8 or 0.2, whichever you want to do it, you're going to find that price point's about 915 in most markets throughout the Bay Area. Again, thinking of high-end markets, it's a whole different ballgame altogether. But I'm seeing a lot of activity, and I'm based out of Santa Cruz County now, so our average price point's about 975 anyways. So I'm seeing that really not have a great effect in what we're doing. I just see the Airbnb, second homes, the Carmels, the Pebble Beaches, those kind of Airbnb rental market environments having some strains and stress because the guidelines are ratcheting back. If there are restrictions on if you can collect rent as an investor, those are starting to trickle in to the guidelines for loans because there's no known time frame for you to get those rents again. So banks are starting to take their own positions around that. So first-time home buyer market, 20% down or more, you're fine. FHA and VA loans specifically are going to be a little bit higher risk to the servicers right now. So you're going to see credit scores for FHA probably be 680 or higher. And the same thing with VA. You're going to see a higher VA credit score. So unfortunately, some of our veterans and people that are buying houses are going to have a higher threshold to qualify right now.
I'm also running into appraisal issues right now too. I've had 2 low appraisals and they're taking a lot longer to get processed.
Absolutely. And that has to do with 2 things in each market throughout the Bay Area, our stay in place order and the liability around appraisers going to properties. So that slowed down the process, but I do believe appraisers are using their forward mindset versus what they should do, which is the past data.
Yeah.
Right? They always say it's past data when we don't like it, but now they're kind of flipping the script on us. So we have a law, as you know. I do believe we're going to have constraints on some of the process flow, and people just need to be aware that there's one process that's new for everybody right now, and that is a re-verification of employment on the day of funding for the most part. So we got to make sure that someone is fully employed, hasn't taken a furlough, and has their job. So more banks will start implementing that into their process. So fundings may take an extra couple days. Just be prepared and prepare your clients.
Well, we're seeing that from our typical non-contingent offer now is a contingency all the way till closing, you know, including the PA, you know, all the different addendums that we're using now as well, the COVID addendum. And
I think that's going to be the case for a while. So work with a great lender. Make sure you get a verification of employment with your pre-approval letter and verified funds. So I'm trying to provide 3 letters now up front during offer to get accepted, right? I'm trying anything I can do to say, hey, this person is a essential part of their business, right? If they're a team lead at a major tech company, or they've been some big player, they're going to be valuable. They're going to have their job.
can I ask the panel, how are you addressing the issue of move outs now? Because obviously if there's a contingency up until closing, I think we're going to probably need to do rent backs more frequently.
Can I take a little bit of that? Okay, so Joe, be careful with rent backs. I'm going to come from the brokerage love side. Careful with rent backs, because remember, there's a moratorium on and forbearance in evictions, right? So that is going to happen even on you know, seller in possession after close of escrow. So be very careful. If the seller can't move, be careful about whether you want to even close. You know, it depends on what hat I'm wearing. You know, give me the seller's hat, I'll talk about the seller. Give me the buyer's hat, I'll talk about the buyer. But you know, rent backs, we're cautioning our agents on those right now, because of the whole thing is you might own a house but can't get into it for 6 months. Because
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
A really good point. Yeah. My concern is that the closing doesn't happen and then the client moved out.
That's a whole other issue, right? Yeah, each case is going to be case by case basis. What I would say, you know, we got some movers that are working, some movers that aren't working. You got delays for whatever, but if you can close on time, and close vacant. I mean, that would be my recommendation.
Cool. Any thoughts on pricing? Why don't we start in San Francisco? Courtney, where do you see the economy going or prices going? Do you see a dip and then rise or flat? Right? Like, give us a like 3-month forecast.
I think right now you're going to see a little bit of a dip, and I think it's going to be that way probably for the next month or so. I think that hopefully come summer, you know, as some of these shelter-in-place restrictions are rolled back, that maybe we'll have more interest in the market and more buyers out there, and then prices will hopefully like steadily increase. I agree with what everyone was saying earlier around the unemployment. I would say a lot of people that are buying houses in this market aren't necessarily affected by unemployment right now. I mean, that could change, right? Like companies are continuously laying people off, and so that could change. But I'd say for the most part, the buyers that I've been seeing in the last few years are still going to be the buyers going forward. You know, they're people that are going to be employed and they're going to have money to buy. And so, you know, I think that our spring market's just going to be delayed a little bit, and it might be something that we see pick up more late summer or in this fall. I think the other thing to think about in the fall, though, is if we don't have a vaccine or something like that, if there could be another wave of the pandemic where I don't know if they'll do another shelter in place or what's going to need to happen. So that's something to think about too, but it's very much like an unknown right now. And then I think factoring the election in as well, which I don't think is like quite as top of mind maybe in some ways, but I know that election years can be a little bit tricky for real estate as well. And so that's something that we'll have to keep in mind when we're talking with our sellers and our buyers.
Great. Katie, what are your thoughts on, you know, the rest of this year?
And all of my buyers are asking me, you know, shouldn't they wait and shouldn't they wait and, you know, seize what they think are going to be a lot of foreclosure or distressed sale opportunities. And that's never been my philosophy, is telling people to wait, because I never really quite know what they're waiting for, because unless they can see into the future, then I don't really ever have a rationale for saying wait it out. My advice usually is, if you can afford to buy a home in San Francisco, for a lot of the reasons that Brett, who I think may be gone, but his charts and statistics, bear out as a basis for giving, that opinion to someone. So I don't know. I don't see that prices are going to drop dramatically in San Francisco. I think this market withstands changes in the economy and the market much better than a lot of other places, Bay Area wide, I guess, as well. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, what I'm seeing now are a lot more transparent buy it now prices, which aren't necessarily reduced prices, but just a little easier to manage, because I think the rest of the transaction is, becoming so much more complicated for the reasons we've been talking about, that makes it, that one piece of it makes it a little less stressful for people to tolerate. Bye, Greg.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, but I'm just very curious how the election is going to affect all of this. I mean, that's all anybody was talking about at the beginning of the year. Wait, gear up for October, gear up for November, it's going to be dead. And now I just don't know that that's what's going to matter to people as much as it once was. So interesting. Can't believe I'm saying that. I do still think people should vote, but nonetheless, real quick, one other last quick comment is what I have seen in a few instances here in the city are listings that are requiring buyers to show proof of funds and a pre-approval letter before being allowed in to see the property, because especially if they're still occupied. Listing agents are becoming much more careful about that kind of thing, and that's another reason why I'm really having these group conversations with lenders and my buyers. They have to be prepared for that as well. There's no more looky-loo. Anyway.
Awesome. Wilson, why don't you talk about South San Francisco and San Mateo market, where you guys work at? Where do you see prices going for the rest of the year?
I feel they're pretty flat right now. I think the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks will be very telling, because the closings that we are seeing close right now are probably decisions that have been made right around when the shelter in place went into effect. So those houses might have had proper touring, etc. At this very moment, cities across the board here in the peninsula have very, very little inventory. For example, in South San Francisco, there's 18 single family condos and townhouses for sale for a population of over 70,000 people. So with limited inventory, maybe there might be a spike of inventory when the shelter is lifted. I think when it was extended, people had to make a decision if they already pre-signed and had expectations to hit the market right after, let's say, April 7th. But as obviously it's extended to May 1st and maybe a week or two more, depending on what happens the next week, that might change. But overall, basics of supply and demand, there's very limited supply. There's still a lot of people wanting to tour out there.
Great. Is Eric still here? No, Eric's off. Let's go to Joe. Where do you see prices going for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think they're going to be flat, and for some reason my condo market is already seeing a drop. We just took an offer. I have a lot of buyer sentiment out there that I think they are looking for lower prices. So for the sellers who don't need to sell, they're just going to probably sit tight. We're kind of going to get in that valley where, things are going to have to play out a little bit more before, people start adjusting prices seller-wise. But I think right now I'm already seeing like a 5% drop in our condo market. And single-family homes, I think it's super hyper-local. We went, one of the properties that fell out of escrow, we went back on the market, we got an offer better than the first offer. So that neighborhood was a very hot neighborhood with schools. Do I think it's going to continue? I think it's going to be also based on financing. I'm a little bit concerned about some of the delays that we're having on our active escrows right now. We're having buyers having to switch lenders. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, with financing. So I think it's probably going to be telling in a few months. I think right now I want to be optimistic, but reality is every buyer call that I'm getting, they're all looking for a deal. It makes it kind of hard.
Cool. Jason, where do you see prices going?
Well, you know, I think that I have to go with what Katie was saying earlier about the whole crystal ball thing. You know, people ask me all the time, is this a good time? Should I wait? Well, I say I can only tell you what you should do today. I don't know if you can afford to buy a house, you know, it's still a good time. And I wouldn't wait. I don't know. I'm not smarter than the market. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to do. But, you know, in my opinion, I think things are leveling off. I think prices are probably going to, you know, come down just a little bit, but that's all temporary. I mean, again, you know, we were on a steady climb for so long that I think we're not going to, you know, the rug's not going to fall out from under us. So I think we're going to be fine. And I think it's such a change now because this usually in the summertime everybody goes on vacation, and you know, so now maybe our market might get a little bit more busy when things start picking up and people start going back to work, because people aren't going to go on vacation for a while, I don't think, you know. So I think we're just going to have a different type of market at different times now than we, you know, historically. So yeah, I think we're going to be fine. I think maybe the rest of this year we're probably going to level off a little bit, but going into the, you know, to the new year, people getting back to work, as long as financing is in place, and I think we're going to be fine. And I think prices are going to, I think they're going to just level off and pretty much. I don't think we're going to see a huge climb. I don't think we're going to see a huge decline. So.
Well, last one, Dania, real quick. Where do you see prices at in your market?
So I think we have an advantage here in East Bay, Antioch, Brentwood, just because I think just according to the stats, we are the most affordable place to live. I mean, median average price in Antioch is about, I just pulled this up for March 2020, is about $470 for Antioch, and then Brentwood, we have it at $590. So I don't think we'll be impacted heavily with the, you know, the financing high jumbo, you know, guidelines and terms. So I think we're going to be okay. You know, the days on the market for March have actually decreased compared to March 2019. March 2020, it was about 32 days average days on the market. Now it's almost cut in half. So inventory is moving, but it's limited. So we still have the buyers, they're looking. It's just the inventory is low. Home prices, I think, will remain stable. But you see, this is opinion based now. I don't have a crystal ball. You know, it's hard to say, but just personal opinion, I think we're going to be all right. I think it's going to be stable. And if I was to present some facts, again, I follow Steve Harney, and he says, well, we've had 5 recessions. Of the 5, we had 2 recessions, right? So where we saw depreciation. So 5 recessions. Of the 5, 2 is where we actually saw a depreciation. Obviously 2008 was huge, and that was a financial epidemic that happened. And then we had one in another one where we only saw 2% depreciation in home prices. So like looking at that, it's kind of like reassuring that I think we're going to be okay. Again, this is a totally different epidemic. I mean, it's just a, you know, it's just a pandemic. It's something that we didn't see coming, you know, nothing financially that happens. It's just a health crisis. So it's a little different, but according to all this, I think we should be all right. Personal opinion.
So regarding Oakland market, I think prices are going to take a small dip, maybe 3 to 5% this year, even out, sit there, and then it'll creep back up. But it really depends on, you know, the who can qualify to buy. I think there's buyers, you know, every market, you don't need everyone to qualify. You just need enough buyers in the market. There's always been an inventory shortage. Oakland is unique because I work with a lot of condo sales. And in the last 2-3 years, prices have dipped a little bit or like stabled out because Oakland has built about 6,900 new apartment units in the last year and a half. So until that inventory gets absorbed, the condo market for sure would take a hit. And I think single family homes in the more desirable neighborhoods Our zip codes like 94611, 94618, Montclair, Rockridge, all those are continuing to go up because that demographic of buyers have high, much better jobs. But the middle of the market, I think we have saturated inventory in like the $5 grand range stuff. And I think that those type of properties will be a little harder to move. But I'm pretty optimistic overall about the market.
Me too.
Okay, any final thoughts before we wrap this up? We went an hour and a half. I wasn't expecting us long. Jim, how about you?
Me, final thoughts? We're here to support clients. We're here to make long-term, big decisions in our lives. We're all leaders in our own way. We have to have a passion for what we do right now, right? It's very clear. You're going to see people lead, and they're not going to lead necessarily with trying to sell houses. Like Brett said earlier, lead with compassion, lead with having sympathy for people, try to make a difference in people's lives. And I think people, as long as you take that approach of being a hero, you're going to find that your own self-interests are satisfied also. I've been on calls for loan mods the last 3 or 4 days trying to help clients out. Just keep making those extra efforts. It makes a difference. Your leaders, people look up to you. I admire all you guys for all you guys are doing. It's not easy, but know that your teammates are here to support you. And in the long run, this will be one of those times you look back at and say, wow, I doubled down, I went all in, and I really became more successful than I ever could think I could be. So thank you guys, and count on your partners to help you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. How about you, Joe? Any last remarks?
God, everything Jim said just rings so true to me. I think just showing people how much you care about them, and it's not about selling another house right now. It's really about showing your compassion on a human level. And for me, that's everything. I mean, I just want my clients to know that I really care about them, and just everyone be healthy.
Awesome. Katie.
I think that one of the smartest things I've heard lately is just from a business standpoint, as you run your business, if you come out on the other side of this, running your business the same way you did when you started, probably isn't the best use of your time. There's so many things that we're doing now in our days that we never did before. I've never really done a webinar before, so now I've done like 50, and I'm psyched. And going forward, I'm going to block off a certain amount of time every week in my business now and in the future to do just that, to learn something new about how to use a tool on the MLS that I never knew how to use before. Pay more attention to the economics of the business and be more educated about that aspect of it from here going forward. So I have some plans, and I think that's part of how I'm using my time during all of this. So including being part of this panel, which is a really big deal for me. So thanks.
Awesome. Jason.
Well, thank you for everybody for what you said. I mean, you've nailed it. And I mean, that's exactly where I'm at with this. It's all about compassion and how you reach out to your current and past clients and just let them know you care. That's what's going to make the difference here. I've heard, double down on marketing. So continue your marketing efforts. Keep that going. When the whole short sale market happened, I was in it, and everybody's like, why are you getting into real estate now? And I think this is when people really need you, right? And then when you come out of it, everything's great. You've kept your name out there, and so continue your marketing and continue to reach out to your clients. So great job, everybody. I mean, I'm so happy and lucky to have been a part of this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Courtney, any last remarks?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun to be a part of this panel. And I think just really dialing in on what's been successful for you as an agent. So like he was saying, continuing doing the marketing that you've been doing. If it's been farming, I would say there's no reason to slow down now. The agents that are going to survive are the ones that are still top of mind. And so whatever way you can do that to be top of mind to your sphere and however else you gain business. I think now, real estate's really been going in a more virtual way. And so it's a really good time if you don't have those skills to do virtual tours, to really have a good social media presence, newsletter, those kinds of things, and getting comfortable with video, then now is like a great time to do that and really get that built in as part of your business. And then, I think, again, just like reconnecting with your clients, like maybe those that have gone to the wayside, it's a great time to talk to people. People are, again, kind of lonely and they want to have conversations with you more so than maybe they wanted to before. And I'd say right now we're like, you know, we're all saying we don't have a crystal ball per se. Maybe lean into more of like what's going on with them personally rather than keeping it like such a business call. I think people would appreciate more just touching base and seeing how they're doing. And then, you know, as things become more clear, you can have more of a, this is the market kind of conversation down the road. So those would be my recommendations for going forward.
Awesome. Dania, any last remarks?
For sure. So what we're going through right now is this unprecedented times. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. And right now, what we have to do as just a real estate agents is be that trusted advisor, you know, like trust is the foundation of our business. So just being that voice of calm, reason, you know, stay in touch, be on the front line for your clients, nurture your database, avoid doing any hard closings, you know, you know, continue your marketing, keep that momentum going, but be mindful of the tonality, be mindful of the content, because it's not about, hey, just sold, or hey, you know, keep it, like I just did a postcard with I don't know, Corfact, and they had really cool COVID, you know, just checking in, we're all in this together. So I sent that out to my farm, just little things like that. So just being sincere, genuine, and being the calm with everything going on, for sure.
Awesome, Wilson. That rhymes. Awesome. Wilson, any last remarks?
Yeah, I think our key word here that I've been sharing with a lot of people is opportunity. If you have the capital, if you have the reserves, if you haven't been hit by, you know, a loss of a job, or financially you didn't overstretch yourself entering into this, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Whether it's us business owners for talent, whether it's properties that we could purchase, or businesses that might be suffering that are looking for an exit plan, or if there's people thinking about retiring because they thought the good times are good and the good times are bad and this is even worse, right? So the key word, opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. I mean, thanks for all you guys for being with us today. We will be doing another one of these. I mean, again, with 13 more of these. Tomorrow night, 5 p.m., we're doing a pretty cool one with Brian Trent, Christopher Florida, Jerry Beverly, and Kenneth Ferrer on investors. And then this Friday at 2 p.m., I have a really great panel of, let's see, I'll share my screen. Right here, I think. Yeah, with contract cost of people like Bill Davis, Brooke Landry's, Alex C. on Joe's team, Stephen Austin. So, you know, tune in. Hope to see you guys some more. And thanks for sharing your time with us today. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.